Imagine you're a Turkish envoy in 1462. You've been sent to negotiate a peace treaty with the Prince of Wallachia, a small kingdom wedged between the Ottoman Empire and Christian Europe. Your Sultan has sent you with gifts, with promises, with threats if necessary. You're a skilled diplomat. You've negotiated with kings and generals. You've seen battlefields. You've witnessed executions. You think you've seen everything. You're wrong. As you approach the prince's castle, something makes your horse stop dead. The animal is trembling, refusing to go forward. Then you smell it. Death, but not fresh death, something older, something rotting in the sun. You round the bend in the forest path, and what you see makes you fall from your saddle. For nearly a mile in every direction, the ground is covered with wooden stakes, and on every stake, thousands of them, is a human body. Men, women, children, babies. Some have been there for weeks. Their flesh is black and sliding off their bones. Birds have made nests in their rib cages. Others are fresh, still twitching, still moaning. Some are impaled through the stomach, dying slowly over days. Others through the chest, a mercy killing by comparison. Some are upside down. Some are arranged in geometric patterns. Some are positioned to face the sun so they cook faster in the heat. And in the center of this forest of corpses, sitting at a table, calmly eating his dinner, is the prince himself, Vlad Dracula, the dragon. He looks up at you, smiles, and asks if you'd like to join him for a meal. You run. And when you return to Constantinople, you tell your Sultan something that will echo through history. We cannot fight this man. He is not human. He is a devil. This wasn't fiction. This wasn't a horror movie. This was Tuesday for Vlad the Impaler, the man who inspired Dracula. Before we dive into this nightmare, I need to know something. Drop a comment right now telling me where you're watching from. Are you watching from Romania, Dracula's homeland? From Turkey, the empire he terrorized? Or somewhere else entirely? Comment your country below. I'll heart every single one. Now, back to the horror. What I'm about to tell you about the real Dracula will make Bram Stoker's vampire look like a children's story, because the truth is so much worse than any legend. Before we dive into the horror, let's talk about what you think you know. Dracula. Pale skin, fangs, drinks blood, fears garlic and crosses, turns into a bat, sleeps in a coffin. The elegant, seductive vampire created by Bram Stoker in 1897. But here's what they don't teach you. Bram Stoker based Dracula on a real person. And that real person was infinitely more terrifying than any fictional vampire. His name was Vlad III, Prince of Wallachia. Born 1428, died 1476. Ruled for a total of about 6 years, spread across 3 separate reigns. In those 6 years, he killed an estimated 40,000 to 100,000 people. Let me put that in perspective. The population of Wallachia at the time was only about 500,000. That means Vlad killed between 8% and 20% of his entire country's population. And not just killed them, impaled them. Slowly, methodically, publicly. He didn't drink their blood, though some sources claim he dipped his bread in it. He didn't turn into a bat, though his enemies said he moved like a shadow. He didn't fear sunlight. He preferred to display his victims in it so they'd suffer longer. The real Dracula didn't need supernatural powers. He had something worse: human creativity in the art of causing pain. So how does a prince become history's most infamous sadist? Let me tell you about Vlad's childhood, because it explains everything. 1442. Vlad is 11 years old. His father, Vlad II Dracula, yes, that's where the name comes from, Dracula means dragon or devil in Romanian, has a problem. He rules Wallachia, a small Christian kingdom caught between two superpowers, the Catholic Kingdom of Hungary to the west and the Muslim Ottoman Empire to the east. To keep peace with the Ottomans, Vlad's father makes a deal. He'll send his two youngest sons, Vlad and his brother Radu, to the Ottoman court as hostages, diplomatic hostages. The Ottomans call it insurance. If Vlad's father betrays them, his sons die. So at age 11, Vlad is taken from his home and thrown into the Ottoman court in Adrianople. And this is where the monster is born. The Ottomans don't just hold him prisoner, they educate him. They teach him military strategy, political manipulation, how to instill absolute fear in your enemies, the most efficient ways to kill large numbers of people. But they also torture him. Historical accounts describe whippings, beatings, and psychological abuse designed to break his spirit and convert him to Islam. His younger brother, Radu, the handsome one, becomes a favorite of the Ottoman court. Some historians believe he became the lover of the future Sultan Mehmed II. But Vlad refuses to break. He watches, he learns, he hardens, and he begins to hate. Not just the Ottomans, though he'll reserve special cruelty for them later. He hates everyone. His father, who traded him away, the Hungarians who constantly invade his homeland, the Ottoman Turks who tortured him, the boyars, the noble class of Wallachia, who he sees as corrupt and weak. Most of all, he hates the idea of mercy, because in this world he learns mercy is weakness, and weakness gets you killed. Then, in 1447, everything changes. His father is assassinated. Vlad II Dracula and Vlad's older brother Mircea are killed by the boyars and the Hungarian governor Jan Hunyadi. But here's the part that breaks something in young Vlad. His brother Mircea is buried alive. Not quickly, not mercifully. They stake him into the ground and bury him slowly, over hours, while he's still conscious. When Vlad hears this, locked in his Ottoman prison, something inside him snaps. He doesn't just want revenge. He wants to become the thing his enemies fear most. And 5 years later, in 1456, the Ottomans release him. They think they've created a puppet prince who will rule Wallachia in their interests. They have no idea what they've actually created. 1456. Vlad returns to Wallachia at age 25. He takes the throne for the first time. There had been other princes in the years since his father's death, but Vlad has Ottoman backing now. And he has a plan. The boyars, the nobles who killed his father and brother, are celebrating Easter at the royal court in Târgoviște. They think they're safe. They think this young prince will be another weak puppet they can control. They're wrong. On Easter Sunday, 1459, Vlad invites all the leading boyar families to a feast. Hundreds of them, men, women, children, all dressed in their finest clothes, ready to impress the new prince. After the meal, Vlad stands. He asks them a question. "How many princes of Wallachia do you remember?" The old boyars laugh and boast. Some remember 7 princes, some remember more. They brag about their influence, their power, their role in making and breaking rulers. Vlad nods. Then he has his guards seize every single one of them. The old and weak, he impales them immediately, right there, in the Easter courtyard, stakes hammered through their bodies while their families watch. The young and strong, he marches them 50 miles north to the ruins of Poianari Castle, and he forces them to rebuild it, stone by stone. In their Easter clothes, their silks and finery slowly shredding as they haul rocks up the mountainside. No rest, little food, no medical care. Within months, most of them are dead from exhaustion. Those who survive, maybe 100 out of several hundred, become the foundation of Vlad's new noble class, a class that will never, ever question him. But that's just the warm-up, because word of this Easter massacre spreads. Other nobles in neighboring regions start plotting against him. And this is when Vlad develops his signature method, impalement. Now, you need to understand something about impalement as Vlad practiced it. This wasn't just execution, this was art. Vlad didn't use a sharp stake that would kill quickly. He used a rounded, oiled stake that was carefully inserted to avoid vital organs. The stake would enter through the rectum or vagina, slide past the internal organs, and emerge through the shoulder or mouth. And the victim would live for days. Vlad employed specialists, men trained in the precise angle and depth of insertion to maximize suffering while prolonging life. Some victims survived for up to 3 days on the stake. And Vlad would arrange them in geometric patterns, circles, rows, star formations. He called it his forest. By 1460, these forests of the impaled surrounded every major city in Wallachia. They served multiple purposes: terror, no one would dare rebel; warning to foreign invaders; entertainment. Vlad would sometimes dine among them. And here's the thing that makes this even more disturbing. His own people loved him for it. Why? Because the vast majority of his victims were corrupt nobles, Ottoman invaders, criminals, traitors. To the common people of Wallachia, Vlad wasn't a monster. He was a hero, the first ruler in generations who didn't let them be crushed by foreign powers and corrupt nobility. He stabilized the economy. He reduced crime to nearly zero, because who would steal when the punishment was being impaled in the town square? He protected Wallachia's borders so effectively that for 6 years peasants could leave gold in the street and no one would touch it. But this popularity came at a cost that makes your skin crawl. Let me tell you about the worst day in Vlad's reign of terror. Because what I'm about to describe is so extreme that historians debated for centuries whether it actually happened, until they found the Ottoman records that confirmed every detail. 1461, the city of Brasov. Brasov was a wealthy Saxon merchant city in Transylvania, officially part of Hungary, but it traded heavily with both Christians and Muslims. And they had betrayed Vlad. The merchants of Brasov had been harboring one of Vlad's political rivals, a man claiming to be the rightful prince of Wallachia. So Vlad marched on the city. He didn't just attack. He didn't just conquer. He created hell on earth. What followed became known as the Great Impalement of Brasov. According to Ottoman records and Saxon chronicles, 30,000 people were impaled. Let me say that again. 30,000 people. Men, women, children, babies. The stakes were arranged in concentric circles around the city, with the tallest stakes in the center forming a massive ring visible for miles. And in the very center, on the tallest stake of all, the rival prince who had claimed Vlad's throne. But here's where it gets truly demonic. Vlad didn't just impale them and leave. He stayed. For 3 days, he set up a table in the center of this forest of dying people and ate his meals there, while thousands of people screamed around him, while the smell of blood and excrement filled the air, while birds pecked at the eyes of victims still alive enough to feel it. He ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. And according to multiple sources, one of his soldiers complained about the smell. He had him impaled on the tallest stake so he could be above the stench. German pamphlets from the time, basically the 15th century version of viral social media, spread across Europe with woodcut illustrations showing Vlad dining among the impaled. These images were so disturbing that they were used as propaganda to raise armies against him. But here's what those German pamphlets didn't tell you. Every single person he killed in Brasov had been given a chance to surrender. Vlad had sent messengers. He had offered terms. The city had refused, believing their walls would protect them. In Vlad's mind, this wasn't cruelty. This was justice. And this is what makes him so terrifying. Not that he was insane, but that he was perfectly rational. Every atrocity had a purpose: deter rebellion, terrify invaders, establish absolute authority. And it worked.
After Brashov, no city in the region ever refused to surrender to Vlad. Not one.
But Vlad's greatest moment, the one that made even his enemies respect him, came in 1462. The Ottoman Empire had had enough. Sultan Mehmed II, the same man who conquered Constantinople 9 years earlier, the most powerful military leader in the world, assembled an army of 90,000 men. His mission? Crush Vlad once and for all. Vlad's army? About 10,000 men. He was outnumbered 9-1. Any sane military commander would have retreated, surrendered, negotiated. Vlad did something insane. He decided to assassinate the Sultan. The night attack of June 17, 1462. Vlad dressed his best soldiers in Ottoman uniforms. Remember, he had lived with the Ottomans for 6 years. He spoke Turkish fluently. He knew their customs, their passwords, their military protocols. Under cover of darkness, he led a cavalry charge of about 7,000 men straight into the heart of the Ottoman camp, pretending to be Ottoman reinforcements. They penetrated deep into the camp. Some accounts say they got within 100 feet of the Sultan's tent before being discovered. What followed was chaos. In the darkness, Ottoman soldiers couldn't tell friend from enemy. They began killing each other. Vlad's men slaughtered thousands. Some estimates say 15,000 Ottomans died that night before disappearing back into the forest. They almost killed the Sultan. Mehmed II himself later admitted he was moments away from being captured or killed. But Vlad's luck ran out. The Ottomans regrouped, and the next morning they began their march deeper into Wallachia. And this is when Vlad played his final, most terrifying card. As the Ottoman army advanced toward Vlad's capital of Targovishte, they began to notice something strange. The countryside was empty. No people, no animals, no food. Vlad had implemented a scorched earth policy. Every village between the border and the capital had been evacuated, every field burned, every well poisoned. The Ottomans marched for days through a dead land. And then they reached the capital. And what they saw there broke the spirit of the most hardened warriors in the most powerful army on earth. The forest of the impaled. For nearly a mile outside the city of Targovishte, the ground was filled with stakes. And on every stake, over 20,000 bodies. Most of them were Ottoman prisoners of war from previous battles, but not all. There were also Bulgarian collaborators, Wallachian traitors, Hungarian spies, and entire families of anyone who had opposed Vlad. The bodies had been there for weeks, some for months. They were rotting, bloated, covered in crows and maggots. And they were arranged again in geometric patterns, circles within circles, with the tallest stakes forming a cross shape visible from miles away. Ottoman chronicler Leonikos Chalkokondils, who was traveling with the army, wrote, "The Sultan's army came across a field with stakes, about 2 hours of travel in length and 1 hour wide, filled with stakes on which they could see the impaled bodies of men, women, and children. The Sultan, seeing so many people impaled, was seized with amazement and muttered that he could not conquer the country of a man capable of such deeds. Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, turned his army around. He had enough. He abandoned the campaign and went home. Vlad had won. With psychological warfare, with terror, with impalement. He had defeated an empire without fighting a single major battle. But his victory was short-lived. After the Ottomans retreated, Vlad should have been celebrated as a hero, and by his people he was. But the Hungarian king, Matthias Corvinus, saw an opportunity. Vlad had requested military aid from Hungary during the Ottoman invasion. Hungary had refused. But Matthias had kept the money that other European kingdoms had sent for Vlad's defense. Now, with Vlad weak and his kingdom devastated, Matthias needed a justification for stealing that money. So he imprisoned Vlad on false charges of treachery, claiming Vlad had been secretly negotiating with the Ottomans, the same Ottomans he'd just defeated. Vlad spent the next 12 years imprisoned in Hungary. By the time he was released in 1474, his brother Radu, the one who had become an Ottoman favorite, had taken the throne of Wallachia. Vlad managed to reclaim his throne one final time in 1476, but he ruled for only 2 months. In December 1476, in a battle against the Ottomans near Bucharest, Vlad was killed. The Ottomans cut off his head and sent it to Constantinople, where the Sultan displayed it on a stake in front of his palace. Even in death, Vlad was impaled. There's a grim poetry to that. So why don't we talk about the real Dracula? Why is he reduced to a vampire myth? Because the truth is too complicated. In Romania, Vlad is a hero. He's on their currency. There are statues of him. He's celebrated as the prince who stood against impossible odds and protected his people. In Western Europe, he's a monster. The German pamphlets that spread during his lifetime painted him as a sadistic tyrant. Propaganda designed to raise money for crusades. In Turkey, he's the devil incarnate. The Kazaklu Bey, the Impaler prince, whose name parents still use to scare children. So which is he? The truth is, he was all of those things. He was a defender of Christianity who impaled Christian merchants. He was a protector of the poor who burned beggars alive because they ruined the appearance of his cities. He was a brilliant military tactician who committed atrocities that would be classified as war crimes today. He was a product of his time, but even by the standards of the 15th century, a time of crusades and religious wars and horrific violence, Vlad stood out. Because he didn't just kill his enemies, he made killing into a spectacle, a message, a philosophy. And it worked. For 6 years, a tiny principality held off 2 empires through sheer terror. But here's the question nobody asks. How did we turn this, a real man who killed tens of thousands of people in the most horrific ways imaginable, into a romantic vampire who drinks blood from beautiful necks in Gothic castles? The answer is Victorian England. When Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897, he needed a villain who was foreign, to tap into British xenophobia, powerful, to seem threatening, seductive, to titillate Victorian readers, but ultimately defeatable, to reassure them. He found references to Vlad Dracula in books about Transylvania and Romanian history, and he borrowed the name, the location, and some of the cruelty. But he sanitized it. Because the real Dracula, the Impaler, the man who dined among forests of screaming victims, was too much for even Gothic horror. You can't make that romantic. You can't make that sexy. You can only make it into a metaphor. So we got vampires instead. We got a monster we could defeat with garlic and crosses and sunlight. Because the real monster, the human one, is harder to face. The real monster is what humans are capable of when they decide that cruelty is a virtue, when they decide that mercy is weakness, when they decide that the ends justify any means. Vlad Dracula didn't need to drink blood to be immortal. His legacy lives in every dictator who uses terror as a weapon, in every regime that displays the bodies of their enemies as a warning, in every ruler who believes fear is more effective than love. We turned him into a vampire because that was easier than admitting that human beings don't need supernatural powers to become monsters. We just need the right circumstances and the wrong lessons.
The next time you watch a Dracula movie, remember this. The real Prince of Darkness didn't sleep in a coffin. He slept in a castle surrounded by 20,000 corpses. He didn't fear crosses. He arranged his victims in the shape of them. He didn't drink blood to survive. He spilled enough to drown an empire. And when that empire's greatest sultan looked upon his work, even he said, "I cannot conquer this man." That is the real Dracula, and he was 100 times worse than any legend. If you want more deep dives into the historical figures they turned into myths, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments which terrifying historical figure should I investigate next.